All right. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. And it is summertime, and it is freaking hot today in Iowa. Feels like 105. I am joined today. I'm David Holder, by the way, with Raised Hunting, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton of Raised Hunting. And we have a pretty cool topic. Actually, the topic was sent in by one of you guys. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But right now, Warren's going to thank you guys, I think, and read off a few shout-outs that we have to do, and we'll go from there.
Yes. We'll start with Apple folks. Jay Wenrick, love the podcast. Have a quick question. Where I'm from, most people have 5 to 15 acres, which consists of their house property, and everyone has feeders or corn piles. Out of all these properties, around me are the big timber properties. I only get to hunt maybe 5 to 7 days due to me living in another state, and family members let me hunt during Thanksgiving. What can y'all recommend to maximize my time and effort when everyone has a head start to the season along with a lot of hunting pressure being involved? I only have one location I typically hunt all day, along with past history of deer movement from years past. I do all-day sits to maximize my time being there regardless of wind and circumstances. Also would love to maybe hear y'all talk about, for the average guy with small properties, to talk about tactics to maximize their efforts and work around these small property issues. Love the podcast, guys. Keep up the good work.
That is an easy answer.
Bigger corn pile.
Oh, you heard. I was going to say, you better have the biggest corn pile in the area.
I think that's a great one. I think that we may need to save that for a whole podcast.
It sounds like he's asking, not trying to bait him or whatever.
Well, just yeah. We will follow that up, and we'll probably do a whole podcast on that one. Thanks for the review, and like I said, we will do that one. HTFD32, love the podcast. What's your opinion on the youth hunts here in Michigan? They're talking about changing to antlerless only. Interesting. Maybe you have another one. Wise Guys is how it's supposed to be pronounced, I'm going to guess. It's not how it's spelled. Great discussion on the luck versus strategy. Great to hear Dad getting his licks in on the boys, too. The jabs and ribbings are awesome, and between the father and son shows a great family bond. Thank you, Wise Guys. He says, the discussion of sharing with significant others cracked me up, and it is true. My wife wants a soda, but usually only a sip of mine.
Oh, this is our sharing.
Can I share? Oofda. I'm saying that really loud because my significant other can hear it, who drank all my drink this morning.
You're yelling into the
Well, he can turn it down. It made me really freaking mad.
Holy
It was
moly.
the last one I had in the refrigerator.
Oh, my gosh.
Do not.
Oh,
I don't want to hear it, Mr. Oh, my Oreos. Oh, my cookie dough. Oh, my Pepsi. Oh, my milk.
It's everything. I open the drawer where I bring all this food, and there's nothing.
You're interrupting Jim Bellows' moment.
You don't put anything back.
Always entertaining and informative. Keep up the great job, guys. Thank you, Jim Bellow.
Warren,
David apologizes.
You know what? I don't even feel like I have somebody on my team with you because Alyssa gives you everything. She's the reason you even are breathing.
You're
right
talking
now.
about team. Whatever, dude. You're talking
You
about
would be
teams here, and then you're just like stabbing me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I ate before I had her.
Yeah, cheese quesadillas in the microwave.
That's probably why I was skinnier. Should we save the YouTube ones? You YouTube guys are lighting it up. We really appreciate it.
Sounds like they have a lot more comment or topics than we have of just comments. So
is that a hold these?
Yeah, because
we'll do YouTube guys next week. So appreciate everybody leaving reviews. If you enjoy this at all, if you think it's funny, if you think there's any information, please do us a favor and share it. Also, we've had some people ask us to let you guys know we sell products. We sell scents for deer. We now sell lighted nocks.
For arrows.
Yes, for arrows. And we sell dog products for
dogs.
Dogs. That one's very new. And so you can go check those out on our website, raisedhunting.com.
What was it?
Raisedhunting.com. www.raisedhunting.com.
I'm not sure. Could you say that one more time for me? What was it? Maybe
too, we'll come up with some deal. We'll give podcast listeners a special discount or something. I know Easton's already hooked up a few of you guys. So
raisedhunting.com. www.raisedhunting.com.
1-800-CALL now.
All right, so
1-800-CALL me.
Are you going to read the gentleman that wrote? Are we going to read it all, or are we just going to go kind of roughly?
We can read it. Let me get out of my boat shopping here.
So what we're doing here is we're going to kind of do a what would you do scenario. So we have somebody who's asking what we would do in his position, and I think we're going to go around the table.
Take our turns answering.
Go around and see what we would each do. And so the point of that.
You need me to pull it up?
Yeah, because I'm not logged into the contact@raisedhoney.com email.
In the future, if you guys have an exact scenario, kind of like the review that we just read, send it in. Ask us what we think, and we're not saying it's right, but we'll just tell you what we would do if we were in your scenario.
Yes, we are starting a new segment in the Raised Hunting podcast, which is the first segment we've actually officially said as a segment besides Wacky Facts that's just kind of gone in there. And so stay tuned for the end of our new segment of What Would You Do?
I think we're starting it.
No, this whole topic is how we would handle this one this is pretty in-depth. Our What Would You Do's are going to be pretty short.
Am I reading?
Yep.
All right, so this one came from Derek Rose. Appreciate you, Derek. And he writes, I've been listening for about
He's a baller.
What?
Isn't Derek Rose an NBA player?
I don't know that.
He is?
I don't watch NBA, so I don't know.
It's the one.
Maybe it's him.
Pretty good.
You never know. Is he 21?
Probably.
Okay.
Shut up, Nick.
All right, so Derek says, I've been listening for about 2 years now and have taken a lot of knowledge in the last few years. It's helped me discover in our area of big bucks. I would love to hear about your experience with big bucks that you can only ever seem to see are nocturnal via cameras. I've had this buck I've been after going into year 2 this year. I feel I have a lot on this deer summertime, then come fall, he becomes a ghost. I won't, just in case someone is listening that might know, he named the deer about the ghost, but I'll skip that.
I thought that was a reference to like the red fern grows.
I don't.
Because of the ghost coon.
Yeah, I just don't want to, that might give away something, so I'm not going to read that. But anyhow, the name of the deer, we hunt in a good area, but I'm 21 and still have lots to learn. Our family has 300 acres, half woods, half planted corn and soybean, next to clear-cut state woods and creek bottoms. What would you look for and how would you attack a deer that seems to be nocturnal come season? I'd love to share photos for a good understanding for you guys. Thank you. Hope to hear a podcast on this.
Lucky for you, here it is.
Yes, sir. Go.
Are we going to go first? I can go first. My opinion is the simple answer with this one is, and I don't know, we probably should have looked. We had the almost exact same question on a DM that Nick answered this morning. My answer to the majority of them of finding them during the day is if you're getting them in the middle of the night or consistently in the middle of the night, I'm just going off of the information he has because summertime could be different than during the rut. But assuming that they're still only there in the middle of the night during the season, I think I call them a destination location. That's where you're at. And destination locations suck.
I thought that was the Hilton Garden Inn.
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. But the reason I call it that is because it is a destination. It is where they're leaving, wherever their bedding is at, and they're going to go feed, and they're going towards something or some specific food source, and you're somewhere along that path that they take or they're going towards to get there, or you are right there, which means that they're probably never going to end up being there anytime close to daylight. The only chance I would say for him that he would have that could be good is that if it turns into fall and they start rutting and he does stay in that area, you could probably catch him during the day. But what I've always done is if it is a situation like that, and I don't want to bank on the fact that it is hopefully during the rut going to get him during the day because that could be a crapshoot or a 50-50, I will try to backtrack him, basically. So whether it's moving cameras further back or adding a couple cameras closer to where I think a bedding area might be or where he may be coming from to see if you can at least walk down the clock of, hey, he was here at 3 a.m. Now I've got pictures of him at 1 a.m. and then you get a little closer to him, and hopefully you can find somewhere where he's at during daylight hours. And then the other thing that I would also say about that is that if you're looking right now, it's going to be difficult to do that right now because you're probably not going to have much movement in the first place out of them, especially if it's like for us right now, it's really freaking hot. It's like 100 degrees. I'm probably, even if I do get right on him, he's probably staying in such a tight area. Unless I drop that camera on top of him, I'm probably not going to know where he's really at. So I would be, as you get closer to September, October time frame, trying to backtrack him and see where he's coming from specifically, or even if you can find where he's leaving. If he gets to you that late in the evening, or late at night, maybe he stays there long enough that you catch him on the swing back in the morning when it becomes daylight.
I think those are all viable possibilities. I mean, but so what are your thoughts, I guess? I have two things that I'm going to mention that I think he could try.
Well, I'd be first looking at a few different things that I'd know. So I got 300 acres to work with.
Which is a pretty substantial piece of ground.
Yeah, that's a pretty sizable piece. It sounded though as though he's there some during the fall. He's
during daylight hours.
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal even.
But I mean, it sounds like he's seeing him during daylight hours before the season starts.
Right. But then it sounds like during the season he's
nocturnal.
But he's there somewhere.
Right.
So my question to Derek on this exact scenario would be, is he only there during the rut that you're getting these nighttime photos of him, or is that earlier? Is that anytime before October 31st, ideally October 28th? Because if that's the case, in my opinion, I'm trying to think back here to most of the deer that a lot of the deer that I am thinking of that have a different fall zone than summer zone, I don't know that it's within 300 acres. Meaning that if
they go farther than that, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. That if he's there at all, if you're getting any photos of him before October 25th or so, there's a good chance that he's living there close by somewhere. I think if he didn't live there at all and he had a completely different fall range, he probably is not if he had a different fall range, you probably wouldn't be getting pictures of him at all before October 25th. Now, if you're only getting photos of him during the rut and stuff, that would make sense to me. He's looking for does. He's getting a little wider. But if you are getting photos of him anytime before October 25th, October 31st, 25th would just be ideal. Then even if they're at night, I think that you can probably find that deer. And I'd be doing basically the same exact thing that Easton just said. I'd be looking at places that I've ignored in the past, first off, because I already know some of the places that he's not. So if you're looking at the places I've ignored in the past, and I'd be putting cameras in all of those places and covering as much as I possibly could, just trying to find something that tells me, okay, he's actually over here or he's actually here. Because if he's there at all, and you can start to hone that in, you should have a good idea now of where he's not. So I guess that'd be the problem is I need a little bit more information. How many cameras are you running already? Is there timber that is connecting from a neighbor's? Is there a road nearby? Is there a river source?
Then you say there's some public timber, timber that.
See, and that's one of the things that I think that he's dealing with. He said that there's 300 acres that they have that's half timber, half agriculture, soybean or corn.
Yeah.
But it butts up to a clear cut, so that basically they've timbered the state ground. It sounds like.
Did he say estate?
Yeah. Well, he said it was public ground.
But did he say estate he lives in?
No.
Okay.
No, public clear ground is what, or clear
cut.
Clear cut,
Which is what they do. So that depends on how long ago they clear cut it. If it's growing back, a lot of times it'll become a pretty good bedding area.
Or if there's also they may not have taken away all the trees. They may have clear cut some of it, but there's still could be some substantial timber there.
Typically they replant trees too,
yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, there's a huge difference between 10 years ago and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is especially if it's corn, don't be afraid to be putting cameras out there in the fields. You might be thinking that, I can avoid all of the agriculture. If there's ditches and stuff, or tall grass or
waterways.
CRP or corn, there could be other little places where he is there.
What he's referring to, because, I mean, logically, you're probably not going to go set a camera in a cornfield because, I mean, if it's in the cornfield, you're just going to get freaking corn stalks for pictures. But one of my absolute favorite places that I don't utilize enough is in Iowa. We have the amount of corn that we do, obviously. The waterways that Dad was just talking about, a lot of them, waterway, if you don't know, there's lots of benefits to it, but you got a cornfield, and then a lot of times you got just a grass strip or something. Maybe it could be anywhere, depends on the farmer, 20 yards wide, could be 40 yards wide. But those chunks, for whatever reason, those waterways, if you have a camera on there or you just pay attention to it long enough, like I've had stands where they're near one of them or something, you can see into them. I have seen some of the biggest deer, whether I knew about them or not, simply crossing those. And I think it's just simply because they can live in corn very easily. They've got moisture in the corn, they've got food, they've got cover, they can hang out. All the other deer are probably there too. So if they want to stay covered, like a lot of these big deer want to do, it's very easy for them to just hop across a waterway. That's a very short amount of time for them to be out in the open and stuff to go right back into basically timber, but it's corn.
More corn.
So waterways, to me, I wish I would make myself pay more attention to it, just because I don't do enough stuff during the summer when it's really relevant, I guess. But man, like I could think of multiple big deer, like the quadruple Maine bean buck. 10 years ago was the first time I was like, holy cow, why do we not pay attention to these waterways? And then I think me and him saw multiple other deer that were pretty freaking big go across that waterway too, and we're like, holy crap, they're deliberately using, like they live in the corn and they walk up or down that to go to the next chunk of corn or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, we probably should be hunting that kind of stuff more.
I've always thought a great strategy could be you go drop a blind in there right now, this time of year, like especially if it comes to an end of where that waterway just butts up to more corn, put your freaking blind there, and you may have a boring sit come early season or something, but holy cow, you could have yourself a
unit around you. One other thing I want to add real quick before I lose my train of thought. If I was Derek, and it sounds like this may be somewhat the case, if it butts up to public, don't be avoiding the public just because it is public. If that
you
deer
have great access too, possibly if you got the land button up to the back of it or something.
If he's living on that public and that's where he's bedding, I think you got a better chance of killing him on the public than you do on your piece.
Possibly, for sure.
Even though it's public, if that's where he is, you need to be where he's at during the day to shoot him.
Right, but at the same time, not knowing what kind of public, we just don't have all the information. That could be the reason this deer goes nocturnal. He just gets a lot of pressure.
He's got to be somewhere during the day.
But it's been for Derek, I think it's been our understanding or our opinion or the experiences that we've seen that even deer near public still expose themselves once in a while during daylight hours. I mean, you
got guys killing big bucks in public.
Absolutely.
So obviously they're doing it.
So what I'm saying is, even a deer that you think is nocturnal, I don't believe that they're 100% nocturnal. The rut will draw them out. They may slip up right before the rut. I mean, some can be worse than others for sure, but they're not 100% only moving in the dark.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're not going to do that.
After you do what you would do with it, remind me, I've got an example deer that I have this exact situation on, but I just don't want to forget about it.
No, I think the thing would be so with that too, though, is I think that they're moving in daylight hours even before the rut, for sure. Weather does have a big implication on that, I think,
Absolutely.
so of how much more before dark they
I think that's a mindset thing.
Let him roll. But yeah, I agree.
So here's what I think if I was in that situation, and again, Derek, we don't know everything about what's going on here. We'd need more information. But that
should be a good thing we should probably mention for these future ones. Give us as much information as you can.
Yeah.
Because that way we can be as accurate
as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you even share something like an Onyx photo of the ground, we're not going to share it on the podcast, but we can look at it and be able to say, oh, look, he's got timber matching on this side and that side, and we're not going to come hunt your spot. So
unless it's like a 240.
Yeah, unless it's really big.
Or if there's an 80-inch shed there, Warren will be running.
So
do not send it to me if there's an 80-inch shed.
So the one thing, and I don't know if you're already doing this, but it sounds like your family owns the ground. I would seriously be talking to Dad or whoever it is about possibly leaving an acre of some of those beans standing or 2 acres of those beans standing, and some kind of a food magnet when all the food comes out. And that could be one of your biggest helps right there. Or possibly, if you guys are, if your family is farming already, then you could put in a food plot so that it's a different food source. And if you could combine those two and have like a acre of brassicas or something like that, along with an acre of beans, I think you would see that you would be able to draw that deer might show up to get a bite to eat, before, like what Warren,
Oh.
late in October. Hold on, because then the next thing that I'm going to tell you, and this is not because we sell the products, but when it comes to food plots, the way I have found to put deer where I can shoot them in the food plot is by dropping a rub tree in. And if you haven't heard us talk about them, rub trees we use a white pine. It's just a limb, about a 10-foot limb, 8-foot limb that we're talking about. We're going to dig a 2-foot hole, drop that limb down in the ground so 6 feet of that is sticking up, and basically start a scrape and put our glandular scents on. Start a rub and put our scents on that rub. And we've had phenomenal success at these deer coming to those rub trees. I've had even better success when it's on the edge of a food plot next to my blind or next to my tree stand, so that I have a reason for that deer coming there to eat. He's coming there, there's other deer, but they might not necessarily make it over to you in time before it gets dark or something, but you have something specific for that buck to come leave his mark on. Combine those two things, and I think you could possibly kill that deer during daylight hours anywhere, like what Warren was talking about, like mid-October. That's going to be your best time, but that later October to the 1st of November. Because once the rut starts, yes, you could see him in daylight hours, and I like the food option of having something there for him to eat on. That could get him there both early in the morning or late in the evenings.
If you wanted to do something pretty cool that I've learned, and that I'm going to do it on some of our stuff this year, that we've planted beans as well. If your dad or you or whoever is doing your farming doesn't want to leave some beans up, if you go in, and if I were you, I would do a little bit later than July, like sometime into August, so that it's growing a little bit slower. But you could walk through your beans and broadcast, like what Dad's saying, brassicas. Look at the Weather Channel, find a heavy rain that's coming in at some point, like in August. Go broadcast through the beans, just your brassicas and everything. Don't worry about tilling or anything. Just go broadcast it, let the rain soak it into the ground, and then even if when you guys come combine it or harvest it, you may run over some brassicas and stuff, but you're going to have a significant amount of food, and the beans are going to help grow the brassicas super, super well. It's basically going to continuously fertilize them. So that would be a great way to, even if you guys didn't want to leave beans standing or anything, that you could go put food in there. It doesn't affect the beans. It doesn't affect the harvest. And it's going to give you a great late season field.
Okay, so let's look at tangibles for him. Because he also said he only has, 7 days to hunt?
Yeah, he's got a wait, no, that was a different one.
Different one? Okay, now I'm mixing it up. Okay. Well, so we all agree that I think you didn't say it, but I think you agree. You need cameras. You need to find where he's at.
Yeah.
And then when we say that too, let's just say you only had 7 days. Let's say you do only have a 7-day period. Then I would be telling you even more so that you need to be putting out more cameras. You go try to do a fresh battery swap in September or something, and you probably need to go make on 300 acres maybe a dozen mock scrapes if you don't know where they are already, and be trying
to make sure you put those where you can shoot them though.
Yeah, and then that way the goal there is that you're going to be able to go and check those cameras before your 7-day window, and that one of those hopefully is going to have him during the daylight or as closest to daylight as possible. And when we say too that you need to be checking everywhere, the deer I can remember the most vividly is bullwinkle. We ended up finding that deer in a little place called Bullwinkle Bottom, which on a similar sized farm that I don't think it was probably more than 20
I was going to say 30
acres.
30 acres, just the length of the creek bottom there.
So about 30 acres where that deer
lived in that sucker.
Was spending the majority of his time. Yep. And we had no idea. We had a very hard time figuring out where the heck he was until we discovered Bullwinkle Bottom. That's why it got its name, because he was there all the freaking time.
So my opinion here is a lot of the stuff that we've given it be the good side, the upside of this specific deer, as far as if you can get back on him, you can backtrack him, you can disperse, you can find areas where he might be during the day. I have an example of Warren telling me this exact situation and trying to find a deer when I was trying to learn this exact. I had deer that would show up at night, and it drove me nuts. Well, I had one buck that I called him Kramer, and this freaking turd would be it. I would get him everywhere on all cameras all the time, but I would always get him at night when I originally got him. So when I was telling Warren about him, I was like, this is a pretty big deer. I mean, if I don't shoot him, Joey would. I mean, this is a cool deer. And so it was like go time. I want to find where this sucker is at, because I had started during the summer finding him, and he was only at night. And then it got to a little bit closer to the season, and Warren was pretty warning wise, or like blunt, like, dude, this is gonna be. I wouldn't like go put all your eggs in the basket of this buck, because I've spent a ton of time trying to find him, bunch of cameras out everywhere. Like, I went full recon mode on this sucker, and it was still very difficult to find anything daytime for him, and if it was super random. And so the strategy me and him employed, or I did, based on his ideas, was I had him at the destination location originally. I was getting him at 3 a.m. in the morning a lot. And then I said, okay, if he's over here and here, I don't have permission, so let's just rule it out. So let's hope that he's coming from the place I do have permission, and I started backtracking to where I thought that he might bed. Well, I did that, and I still get him, but at night still. So I ended up making like a freaking, I mean, it was probably, that section's probably 200 or 300 acres, so it's real similar. And I went everywhere to try to find this deer during the day, and I would consistently get him all the time, but only at night. And I even went to the point, at that point, I was like, process of elimination here would tell me this spot is where there's not much, no cameras, or I haven't been in as much. He's got to be there. And I went at it that way. And still, I've only saw that deer one time during the day on a walk-in to our stand. I think it was me and you. He was like chasing a doe or something right towards us. That was the only time I saw him during the day. But my point with that is that the upside is that you can backtrack him. You can find him somewhere.
Quite a few photos of him, though.
Oh, my
during
gosh.
the day.
Yeah, but the issue with those was then it was so
that the next
random.
Year?
Yeah, it was the next year that he started. I could get some daytime photos of him, but it would be like one spot here, and if you missed him on that day or two, then it's like a crapshoot trying to find where the next daylight is going to be, because he moved so much. But you could find him during the day at that point, but then it was so random that it was almost like if you had an idea, maybe sit in a stand and just literally suck it up and wait for days and days and days. But my point is that there's some deer.
That's my theory is on that. You just sit there over and over and over.
But the other thing that you have to take into account is he could be an unhuntable deer as far as him killing him.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, and so the scenario I would use is straight up. If someone owned ground next to our chunk of ground where straight up spends his summer in part of October, you would think, well, I got a good chance of killing this deer, and then he disappears. He doesn't go back there. He comes over, he would leave and go away, which doesn't seem like it's what's happening with this deer.
Well, that's my point, though, on the summer range deal. We never, ever got a photo of straight up back over there once.
Right.
So I don't think that's his situation.
Right. I think this deer is still in the area, which would say that there's a good chance of that he's there. However, the next thing that I would do too is I would be studying that if he's on the side of the property that you think that he's cutting across onto the public, I would be studying that public ground. I would want to know how many guys are hunting it, how often are they hunting it, where are they accessing it, where do they put tree stands, whether they can leave their tree stands or not. Because there could be a movement of that deer from that, and he's guaranteed figured it out. That deer has. If he's been around for a couple years, he's figured out what's going on there. And so he could be changing his routine. Hopefully he's not leaving completely, but at the same time, I agree with Warren. I wouldn't necessarily not hunt the public if the public was the better place, it may take a camera or two to see if he's in there during daylight.
Well, if they're calling him Ghost and he's done this numerous times, that deer understands people. He's figured out people, and I think that could help you, because it could be like a Bullwinkle thing. Bullwinkle had figured us out.
Yeah.
Where you just need to be sitting in. You just got to find where that one spot is that he thinks that he's. Yeah, but you do need to be careful, because I think at the same time, a deer like that, if you do go running around there buck wild all the time, he may not tolerate all that much.
That's
so true. I'd be trying to be pretty efficient with it.
My whole thing was don't get too connected if he is this consistently at night.
Yeah,
If you can't figure it out, you need to have a couple backups.
Shoot another deer.
Speaking from experience. So just make sure you have other options. If you've employed all these different things and you're still struggling to find them, you're putting your eggs in a basket that is very difficult to get. So
I would work hard on it, though, because he's there somewhere.
If yours sounds like he has a lot of good things going for it.
Yeah,
but
if it's before
for those
October,
people listening, though, I think that we should make it a point that we should explain to people we have deer that we don't kill, that we know well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hammer is be a perfect example. However, and this is a deer that was on one of the farms we hunt, but we knew that he wasn't living on us. He wasn't staying on us. He wasn't the core area was not in the middle of us where we could target him like that. He was kind of a random swing through. You kind of figured out to the point where, okay, it's after shotgun season that he really moves in on us, and that's where
you found where he would move in.
That deer,
it was still difficult.
He was unkillable only due to the fact that we only had about 2 acres to hunt him. You know,
that he would touch of us.
Yes. Like my point in Derek's situation, if I'm Derek and I don't know how much this public is and everything, and we're just going to assume that I have pictures of this deer during October at night, you can find that deer. If that public is also a lot of ground. Now if you got a lot of other neighbors or something and he could be on one of them, that may negate what I'm saying. But we're just going to assume that it's your 300 acres in the public that surrounds you. You can find that deer, in my opinion. If he's there during October, you're going to be able to find him somewhere. It's just going to be a matter of how much work and how many cameras is it going to take to do it.
Right.
Which is good, could be more than what it's worth, depending on how big it is.
Could be one of the best learning tools ever. And what you could end up doing is maybe not killing him, but you may figure it out. You know, that would be cool.
Yep.
Gypsy's been a great one to learn this situation on too, of summer range, fall range versus just daytime, nighttime. And that one was lucky as hell. I mean, we're looking at some of these places we're talking, these deer will be a mile or two away during the summer that we may know where they're at, but then they come to us or vice versa. They go somewhere else kind of thing. That one has Gypsy, the buck I'm talking about, we got really lucky with because we get this really cool deer during the summer, and then we're a place that I hunt, which is a solid 4 miles away. I got the same deer during the fall. And Warren, the only reason I realized that is because Warren tried telling me that, and I told him he was a nutcase. And we went and looked at the photos, and sure enough, that deer literally will be there at one farm during the summer, and then hit like mid-October, 4 miles away. This freaking thing will show up at a whole nother spot, run the place there, and then we'll turn around and find his sheds on the other farm.
However, he did do something very odd last year.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
He went back
twice
for a period. Was it twice?
He did it. He did the trip twice during the season.
In October, though.
That's what I'm saying. During October.
When was the other one? The other one was later October.
He did it right away. He did it early this year, like 10th or something like that, or 12th. Actually, no, I think it was the 13th when I first saw him, and with Nick actually, and saw him, picture of him, video of him, and then I was like, oh, well, I guess he moved in early this year. Then next thing you know, Warren's like, psych! I got a picture of him over here again. And so it's like, okay, well, I guess I talked to Dad. I'll go hunt that spot and try to hunt him. Nope. Went all the way back. He was like a week or two where he'd literally bounced 4 miles back and forth twice. And then
which the thing that throws me so off about him is that he reminds me of Nomad somewhat, except for I felt like Nomad did Nomad seem to have a core area really? Yeah, so where Gypsy seems to have 2 core areas. Like he's moving to one place and he's there all the time. And he's moving to the other place and he's there all the time. Where like a Nomad, that seems to be for some deer that seems to be their type. That they're
just random.
They are just
everywhere.
They have like a freaking 3 mile loop. And they're just all around it all the time.
I have a theory on those deer. I think that those deer are inferior. I think that they get their butt kicked all the time, regardless of whether they got the biggest rack. Because Nomad wasn't a small rack deer.
No, he's big rack deer.
But I think that other deer intimidated him, and so he just couldn't stay. And
what about during the summer?
Well, That didn't make any sense. And the reason that I named the deer Nomad is I actually saw him a mile and a half away from where I got a picture of him on a trail camera on the same day. I mean, he had traveled a mile and a half just in 6 or 7 hours. And then the neighbors saw him like within the next day a mile away as well. I mean, it was like he was just all over the place. And in summer he would do that, and he would do it in the fall. And it eventually, I felt like that deer had very little chance of surviving because of so many people hunting that he's going to wander in front of the wrong person, and he did. And so I'm pretty sure he was only 3 when he got killed.
Gypsy, you can throw that theory out, though, on with the inferior.
But he
might
doesn't,
not be inferior, though.
But I was
But
gonna
that's where he's not doing the same thing as Nomad.
Yeah, he's got a spot.
Stays in a
He's
spot.
going there and staying there. Now, last year could have been maybe he was fighting more for competition, and maybe he wasn't winning, and so he had to do a little more looking.
Well, see, we had thought that it was because the place that he normally moves to is very doe overloaded, typically. And this last year, it was like the numbers were just not there like normal. And then he ended up leaving again, then coming back. That seemed like he was almost just checking in, seeing if they're there yet, left, come back. But that deer at the same time of year, too, every year will snap his entire freaking main beam off because he fights so much.
That's what I would love to be able to track him and know when he's going from point A to point B. Is it a one evening deal?
Right.
And he just,
or
because it's for a deer, I mean, that's got to take him no time at all
No.
to go do that.
Just a matter of if they want to do it or not.
Right. But does he just say, okay,
Is it a 2 or 3
going
days?
to this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is he, I'm going to take my time and
I think it's got to
go
be
visit Bill? And
I think it's got to be like a day, or if not, maybe 2, just based on the time in which we're getting him on cameras at each one, and assuming the fact that a camera doesn't freaking get everything. Like, that deer could have been there for a while before he ends up walking by a camera or something, and the fact that you get him within less than a week on 2 different farms 4 miles apart would tell me that he probably does that trip pretty quick.
or maybe we're way underestimating him and he's doing it all the time. Like
Yeah,
he's
maybe.
traveling
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
just everywhere though. Like in a 4 mile
But then I would
radius,
think that
he's just walking all the
I
time.
would think
Yeah, I
he'd
would
get
think.
domed.
Yeah, I
There's-
think he'd get tracked
There's
too.
hunters everywhere. I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, it's hard to tell. I think it's a great. I hope Derek keep us informed on what happens with yours if you.
Well, send us
Employ-
some more info if you would.
Yeah,
I'll have to answer him. He's gonna hear the podcast before I've answered him probably, but I'll have to answer him because then that's how they send me the pictures and stuff. Because it sounds like he might have been willing to send like the picture of the land and stuff
Right.
and whatever else.
Yeah, well, the most important thing I'd be asking you is, do you have any photos of him before October 31st? That would be my question. And how many years of photos like that do you have? That would be what would be the most key thing to me.
Fair enough.
What was the next one?
Well, we have the what would you do section if you'd like to do that one.
You
I
have
kind of thought that was it, but
Yeah.
Well, I have. This is how we'll actually do it, though. I have this one. This is an interesting one. All right. This is from our main squeeze. He's been around with us a long time. He messaged me, says, "What's up, my man? I think I have a great topic I'd like to hear about or hear on the podcast. How would you guys approach a difficult neighbor and or neighbors? We have some small parcels of land we lease or have leased, and the one neighbor is increasingly more and more difficult. Going as far as putting things on the fence to make noise to keep deer away or force them another way. He even sets up dummy stands on public land that borders him to keep hunters away. I've personally shot deer that have unfortunately ran onto his side and he wouldn't let me retrieve them. I know you guys own land and deal with neighbors, but to hear your guys' view and how you would go about it would be helpful. Obviously, we could just ignore it or move to other spots, but that may not always be the easiest thing to do. Thank you, guys." So there's a lot of things you could do here.
First of all, you got to
You do the right thing.
you got to stay legal.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to get frustrating. It sounds like are you? I'm gathering. He doesn't clearly state it there. I guess that this person is an anti-hunter.
I don't know.
You know,
No, I don't think
or
he is. I think
are
he's
they a
just
hunter and they're trying to keep people from hunting
I
next
think
to
they're
them?
a hunter. I think from what I've talked to him about, it seems like they're a hunter.
If there's a hunter out there, I'll just say this: if there's a hunter out there that won't let other hunters come on the ground and get their deer, you need to go find something else to do. You have no business being in the woods taking animals.
If they shot it legally and it went on their
Yeah,
property.
I mean, what I'm saying
just
is
the fact that you shoot a deer next door or whatever, and they're not willing to let you.
that's what I'm saying. That's what makes me think it's an anti-hunter. It's
Well, I'm
someone.
just thinking they're putting stands up and stuff too.
Oh, I bet not. I
Yeah.
bet it's a hunter. Everybody gets all people get. Look at what people will do to shoot a 200-inch deer.
It's just a deer, though. I mean, when it
they'll
comes down
to
to
you
it,
though, a lot of I agree, but
it's
They'll-
just a deer.
Poach it and then take it onto their sister's property that they didn't have permission on there either, and drop it off and stage the whole thing. And
then take credit
and-
for doing it legally.
so, I mean, for them to be putting something on the fence line and hanging a stand isn't all that
No,
wild.
I've heard of people doing that, but the part of not letting someone come retrieve their deer is what made me think this was an anti-hunter.
Well,
But I don't know.
I think number one,
anyhow-
look into your laws, because for us, excuse me, if it comes to the deer situation where you shoot something and it goes across the fence, Iowa is a nice. It's good and bad. It can be used in the wrong ways, but Iowa, we can legally go across the fence as long as you have blood. Number one, and number two, you cannot have a weapon with you. And so the way we've handled situations like this, we'll call him. I know he had said that like he's tried to get a hold of the neighbor and stuff to get over there, and they won't let him. Iowa, it's nice because if they're going to pull that and they don't want to let you, like we're calling out a courtesy because we would want somebody to call us too.
Mm-hmm.
Difference with us is if somebody calls us, says they got a deer that ran over there or whatever, we're probably going to go help them try to find it. You get the no, though, depending on the laws, like I said, got to be legal, but here we can go still as long as we have blood. And so that is very nice for us, but in a lot of states that's not a thing. But then again, there's some states where if you think that your deer went over there, I don't think you even have to have proof in some states to go.
I don't
but
know all the
don't
states, but
quote
I
me
know
on that, but-
most of them, all the other states I lived in, if the landowner did not give you permission, you were not going.
Correct.
The sheriff couldn't make them. The game warden couldn't make them.
Yeah,
Did not happen.
which is crappy in my opinion. But so there's some things that you could probably fill in the blanks there to figure out. But other than that,
but-
working with them, I mean,
I was going to say, try to, I mean,
there's a lot. Dad's dealt with a lot of them. It can be strenuous and difficult, and sometimes you got to freaking deal with it or ignore it. But other times, you may at least come to an agreement, maybe get it worked out. But
we've had this situation. We have this situation right now. I mean, and that is, we hunt enough places that we have a lot of neighbors, and I will say that we do everything we can to be a good neighbor. Meaning, if I own the ground and someone shoots something, I've let multiple people come onto our ground and look for a deer. When they had blood, even when they didn't have blood, I would go and meet them. Like Easton said, I would help them because I'm a hunter and I want to see them finish that. So as long as someone's not trying to take advantage of it and calls me after the fact, hey, I just walked in your property and looked all over and didn't have any blood or anything, that's not happening. That's just trespassing. So anyhow, it's got a case-by-case basis, but my point was going to be is that out of all the neighbors that we do have, I would say that we get along with 95 or 98% of them, that we have a good working relationship with them because we try to work with them. We'll share photos with them. We'll share, hey, this deer exists. We're going to let this deer go. You know, you got to get that neighbor that is willing to do that as well. I mean, if we have a neighbor that's like, yeah, we shoot whatever deer comes through, you know, then, hey, we're probably not going to share with you that this deer is here. And that's not us trying to be jerks. That's just trying to be, as successful as we can. So, but definitely taking a positive approach and trying to say, hey, can we try to work this out? If the guy's going to an extreme, though, where he's putting things on the fences to make noise, deterring, I got a feeling you're just going to have to get where we have one neighbor that we just don't work with. We stay out of their way. We don't go on their property. If we did kill a deer only because it's legal in Iowa, we have still had to call him and say, hey, we'd like to retrieve this deer. But if he tells us no, I would contact the game warden and explain what's going on, and then we would still legally be allowed to go look for that deer if we have blood and no weapon with us. So, but do everything you can to try to appease the neighbor. But at some point, you just have to say, I'm going to try not to deal with them at all. Try to just avoid them, avoid confrontation, avoid stands or whatever. I would not, as long as you're legal, I would not change stand locations. If I got to stand near a fence and it's a good travel corridor and it's a place where I feel like I need to have a stand, as long as I'm not shooting across the fence or anything like that, I'm staying there. Now, I know that when I go get in that stand or in that blind, that I may, as it gets daylight, see a scarecrow that he's put up or something like that. So you got to know that you're possibly going to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, to give you anything tangible to go do, I don't think there's a ton you can do. But depending on like the situation where he's saying that they're putting stuff up to scare deer away on fence lines kind of thing, it might suck. But at the same time, don't look at it as a negative. He could possibly be just helping you by making them, they're going to maybe consistently cross in a different area. So maybe try to find that. And that would be one option. The other option would be, if they are putting stuff on the fence, check your laws and see what if you have like a 50-50 law where you own half of the fence and are responsible for half of it, the neighbor's responsible for half of it or whatever. Point being, depending on what you own, fence line wise, if they are putting stuff up that maybe could technically be your fence, take it down, drop it right there. I mean, they're just they're technically that's illegal if they're putting stuff on your fence, whether they were standing on their side or not. But again, don't take our word for legal stuff, because we don't know your state and we don't know your laws. But check there's always options. There's some things to do, and sometimes the option is just not the one you want to take, but you got to do it. So,
you got a comment, Warren?
No, I would have done the same things.
Yeah. Now, what you want to do could be way different. I won't go into all those things.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
You've been creative.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like that we haven't thought of some of the other things to get back at him or whatever. But just try to be the bigger man and not go there. And hopefully, karma is something I truly believe in, and hopefully that will pay off for you. That if you take the high road where he's doing things to deter you, the deer walks by you instead of him, because he's got bad karma and you got good karma. So that's the best I think that we can offer on that. So are we ready? Have you found your wacky fact of the day? You had one last week, or did you end up doing it?
No, it cut me off, and I don't remember what it was. What was my theme last week?
I don't know. You never have a theme.
I don't know. You just randomly come up with stuff.
Does anybody remember what last week's was?
No, I don't remember the fact.
Do you remember what it was, Nick? No.
I've slept since then.
But do you have one now?
No.
You guys, I don't know why you guys support Warren's wacky facts so much when he leaves you hanging so much.
No, I had a good one last week and you messed
Well,
it
you
up.
have to
I
have
told
one
you to
every
write
week.
it down or screenshot it, and you didn't listen.
Yeah, screenshot. I remember him telling you to screenshot it.
Screenshot it. Yeah, that's right.
Screenshot it.
Are you looking here? Is that what we're waiting on?
Yeah.
This is horrible. Usually I apologize at the beginning of the podcast for what these guys might do. Now I'm apologizing in the middle because I forgot to do my formal look. I'm just going to say I'm sorry now. That covers anything that they might do.
You guys, just so you guys do know, we have been using the scents, and I have had freaking scrapes
Already?
quickly becoming very popular in the deer community. So it is not too early. Get her going. Yeah, I put scrapes up last weekend. I already have a lot of deer hitting them. So
I think I got one.
let's hear it.
Murder rates rise in the summer. Ever feel angry or in a bad mood when the weather is hot? Well, you're not alone. Violent crime goes up in hotter weather, and the U.S. murder rates reportedly rise by 2.7% over the summer. With this heat,
Oh, I'm thinking that you better have a bulletproof vest on than going outside right now because it's freaking hot.
it is so hot. It's legit hell.
That wasn't
Little
much.
Button Man,
Yeah, little button man is back.
the dictator.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
All right.
you guys can write in and explain that his wacky facts the last 2 weeks have been weak.
Why don't you come up with them?
Because that's not my. You are the wacky fact. You came up with a wacky fact. Well, once in a while I tried to help, and then I got complained that I was doing too good.
No.
Then-
He's
Oh,
still
yeah.
100%.
No, he's not.
I got I got a
50%.
red button on
Like
something.
3 in a row. Your brain burns 400 to 500 calories a day. So that means yours does about 70.
Eh.
Because it don't do shit.
All right, guys, we're going to roll. We appreciate you guys writing in. Thank you for all the reviews. We sure appreciate that. Go to theraisedhunting.com. Check out the scents, the knocks, the dog treats. The dog treats are not just treats. They're actually things to make your dog more healthy. So lots of cool stuff there, and we will see you next week. Appreciate you guys. This is David signing off.